You've probably heard the name Slavoj Žižek. Maybe
Wow.
you associate him with really complex philosophy, or maybe just his, unique cultural takes, his style.
Definitely a distinctive style. And yeah, a lot of people think, okay, dense academic stuff may be a bit out there for everyday life.
Right.
Okay.
But what if we told you that actually underneath all the Lacan, the Marxism, the movie references, there are some surprisingly practical keys for figuring out modern life, things you can actually use.
Exactly. It's easy to get lost in the sort of intellectual fireworks, right? But the really profound thing about Žižek is that he offers a framework. It's not just thinking about things.
Okay.
It's a way to challenge how you perceive reality, how you see power, even how you see yourself. He's giving you tools, really.
So today, that's what we're doing. We're diving deep into this idea. We're calling it Žižek, a practical guide to challenging reality. And our mission really is to pull out the most important insights, the usable stuff from his work. We want to help you cut through the maybe perceived complexity. Yeah, the jargon.
And apply these ideas directly to your own life, your own experiences.
Think of it like a shortcut, a way to get, properly informed about a thinker whose work, yeah, it's playful, it's full of references.
So many references.
But ultimately, it helps us peel back the layers to see the hidden assumptions behind so much of what we just accept as normal. Consumerism, politics, how we relate to each other, all of it.
So we're going to unpack 5 core principles today. And the idea is if you really grapple with these, if you take them on board, they could genuinely make you harder to manipulate, more authentic, and just fundamentally more engaged with what's actually going on around you.
It really promises a shift in perspective. So get ready to maybe question what feels normal, maybe even what feels rebellious.
Okay.
It's less about just watching the world go by and more about understanding the engine room, the hidden logic and where you fit, often unconsciously, into that picture.
All right, so let's get into this first big idea from Žižek. It's foundational, really, for everything else. He says ideology isn't just like obvious political propaganda, big posters, manifestos.
Right, that's kind of the surface level.
Exactly. He argues it's much trickier, much more woven into just everyday life. It's in the common sense stuff we just take for granted.
It's like the air we breathe, isn't it? We don't notice it. And what's really unsettling, and I think fascinating, is how deep these unexamined assumptions go. They become the invisible rules. They shape what we think is normal or natural or just how things are. It's like wearing glasses you don't know you have on.
Yeah.
And drawing on Marx and Lacan, he'd say it's not just a simple lie, like false consciousness, that you can just fix by showing people the truth.
Okay, so it's more complex than that.
Much more. It's a deeper structure. It shapes our desires, how we see things, even what we think is possible. It's what makes us want to play the game, even if the game isn't necessarily in our best interest.
So, practically speaking, in modern life, this means we need to, what? Just pause before accepting things. Like cultural norms, media stories.
Yeah, take that breath. Think about the messages we get constantly about what a successful life is supposed to look like. Is it always about money? A certain job? A certain look?
Or happiness. What even is happiness according to these messages? Just feeling good all the time, buying new stuff.
Exactly. Or even how we're supposed to act online or in person. Žižek says these aren't neutral facts. They're often crafted narratives.
Designed to keep things running a certain way, to maintain a particular order.
Precisely. And he really tells us to pay attention when something gets framed as natural or inevitable. That's a key signal.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about extreme consumerism. The idea that buying more, upgrading constantly, is just human nature. Or that massive social inequality, huge gaps between rich and poor, is just an unavoidable side effect of society.
Right, people say that all the time. It's just the way the world works.
But Žižek pushes back. He says, look closer. These inevitable things often hide systems of control, systems of power, designed to keep the status quo exactly as it is. They aren't laws of nature. They're constructed. They're reinforced all the time by this underlying ideology. It's like the hidden blueprint.
So think about it for yourself listening. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, well, that's just how it is? About maybe your career path or a big social problem or even just, I don't know, the housing market. Žižek wants you to stop right there to ask, is this really inevitable? Or is it just a story I've bought into without realizing it was a story?
And the payoff here, the practical skill, is huge. You become much, much harder to manipulate.
How so?
Because when you start seeing and questioning the hidden assumptions, whether it's in advertising promising happiness through a product or political slogan appealing to common sense,
Yeah.
you gain critical distance.
You're not just soaking it up anymore.
Exactly. You become an active interpreter, an interrogator of reality, not just a passive recipient.
And you said earlier it's not about being cynical. Cynicism can be passive too, right?
Absolutely. This is about active discernment. It's about seeing the strings, seeing how these obvious ideas connect to bigger structures. It gives you intellectual autonomy.
Especially now when we're just bombarded with messages constantly.
Right. And taking that step back, it means you're not just consuming news or information. You're actively asking questions about its foundations.
Okay.
So you see a report about the economy booming.
Yeah.
You ask, okay, what assumptions about growth and consumption are baked into this? What's being normalized here about how we should live, how we should value things?
That's a deeper level of questioning.
It is. It gets you down to the ideological bedrock beneath everyday life. And then you can choose, do I accept this, do I participate, or do I look for something different?
Okay, so if ideology is everywhere, even in just common sense, this next part from Žižek gets even trickier, maybe a bit uncomfortable.
It can be, yeah.
He warns us that even when we think we're being rebellious, independent thinkers, breaking the mold, we might still be operating completely inside the system's logic.
Right. It's like being in a maze designed by someone else. You think you found a secret shortcut, a way out, but actually that path was part of the original design too. It just leads you back, maybe in a slightly different way.
Wow. So what does it even mean to be outside the system then? If even our attempts to defy it are sometimes predicted or absorbed by it.
It's a really sobering thought, isn't it? It forces us to question if rebellion itself can sometimes, paradoxically, help the system survive. It gives us an outlet, lets off steam, without actually changing the fundamental rules. Žižek sometimes calls this interpassivity.
Interpassivity.
Yeah, the idea that the system kind of performs our rebellion for us. We buy the rebellious product or click like on the activist post, and the system counts that as our dissent. So we don't have to do the harder work of actually challenging its core. We outsource it.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Give us an example Žižek might use.
Okay, a common one. Buying an eco-friendly product. Seems like a good thing, right? You feel like you're pushing back against environmental damage.
Yeah, you're making a conscious choice. Using your money for good feels like activism almost.
And that's exactly where Žižek would jump in. He might say, well, hang on. Isn't this just a newer, maybe more sophisticated way to sell you something? It cleverly reframes consumption itself, the act of buying, as a moral victory, as a political statement.
Instead of questioning the need to consume so much in the first place?
Precisely. It gives you the illusion of change, but within the existing framework. It reinforces the idea that big problems like climate change can be solved just by buying different stuff, greener stuff.
Not by, say, changing the economic system that drives overconsumption.
Exactly. You're still playing the consumption game. The fundamental act hasn't changed. It just has a nicer label now. It's like a moral alibi that lets you keep doing the thing that might be part of the problem.
Okay, so is even our good intentions can get tangled up like this? What does that mean for us? For trying to make a difference? How do we avoid these traps?
Well, the key skill here is learning to spot how these alternative choices or movements can get co-opted, get neutralized by the very system they seem to oppose.
Right.
Understanding that mechanism allows you to act more authentically, to aim for actions that really challenge the core logic, that expose the contradictions, rather than just becoming, a slightly different cog in the same machine, maybe a greenwash cog, but still a cog.
So it pushes us to be more self-critical, to ask ourselves honestly,
Yeah.
Is this action I'm taking genuinely disruptive? Does it challenge power structures? Or is it just conforming in a slightly different flavor, maybe making me feel good about my participation?
That level of self-awareness is absolutely vital, because the system, capitalism especially, is incredibly good at commodifying dissent, turning rebellion into a brand, a trend.
We see that all the time.
All the time. So it forces us to think on a meta level. Are we really trying to change the rules of the game Žižek is describing? Or are we just playing a different version of the same game? Maybe a version that feels more ethical, more virtuous.
But leaves the underlying structure untouched.
Exactly. And that nuanced perspective, that's essential if we want genuine transformation. Otherwise, our best efforts might just end up reinforcing the very thing we wanted to change. We become the exception that proves the rule, allowing the system to carry on.
Okay, this next point from Žižek really takes aim at something huge in our culture right now. You hear it everywhere. Self-help, wellness.
Mindfulness, positive thinking.
Exactly. And he's often pretty critical of this obsession, especially when these things are used, maybe without us even realizing it, to just avoid the hard stuff, the real deep problems, whether they're personal or social or political.
And it's fascinating because he's not necessarily saying, meditation is bad or being optimistic is wrong.
Right. It's not the tools themselves.
It's how they're often applied. Superficially, as a quick fix, a way to numb ourselves, to kind of float above the messy reality instead of engaging with it, using them to escape discomfort, rather than using discomfort to understand what needs changing.
So what's the alternative then, according to Žižek?
Well, he argues, quite provocatively, that real improvement, genuine growth, doesn't come from dodging discomfort. It comes from confronting it, leaning into it, seeing it as necessary, even productive.
Okay. So facing things head on.
Yes. Facing personal trauma. Sitting with the reality of systemic injustice, even if it's painful, grappling with our own contradictions and our own hypocrisies, resisting that constant urge to sugarcoat things, put a positive spin on everything just to feel better right now.
When maybe the underlying issue is still there.
Exactly. When fundamental problems are unresolved, true growth, he suggests, is often messy. It's uncomfortable. It can even be painful. It's not this smooth, serene journey we're often sold. It's about letting that discomfort actually guide you towards what's real, rather than letting it push you into denial or distraction.
So, think about it personally. How often do you reach for a distraction when something difficult comes up? A tough feeling, a hard conversation, some awful news story.
That urge to look away, to scroll, to think happy thoughts.
Žižek would say that moment, that feeling of discomfort, that's actually a huge signpost. It's pointing directly at something important that needs your attention, where reality is kind of knocking against your comfortable view of the world.
And the practical insight here is really powerful. Instead of numbing out, instead of trying to positive think your way past hard truths, use that discomfort as your guide.
As a guide, how?
That feeling of unease, that cognitive dissonance, that knot in your stomach when something feels wrong or unfair, or when you learn something that shakes up your worldview, that's a signal, an alarm bell.
Not just a problem to be fixed or ignored.
Right. It's showing you a gap between how things are and how maybe they should be, or a gap between what you say you believe and what you actually experience or do. It's data.
So this encourages a more robust engagement, both with ourselves and with the world.
Definitely. It pushes us beyond just individual coping mechanisms, which often just manage symptoms, right?
Yeah.
Make you feel better temporarily, towards actually recognizing and tackling the root causes of the distress. Whether those roots are deep inside us, psychologically, or out there in society, in unjust systems. It's about being an active participant in reshaping things, not just passively managing your reaction to them.
So connecting that to the bigger picture.
It implies that real transformation, personal and societal, demands a willingness to sit with what makes us uncomfortable, to analyze it, maybe even embrace it in a way, not avoid it just to get a quick sense of peace.
Because avoiding it means avoiding the truth sometimes.
Often, yes. It's about actively engaging with the messy net of the world, the contradictions, the painful parts. Because only by looking directly at that stuff can we truly understand it, critique it, and then maybe begin to change it in a meaningful way. It's not about being negative, it's about being truthful and finding liberation in that truth.
Now, this next point. It feels maybe the most provocative, but also, weirdly, the most human. Žižek often talks about true love and real political commitment. The kind that actually changes things requires a huge leap, a leap into the unknown.
Yeah. It's not safe. It's not predictable. And it's definitely not purely rational. You can't just make a spreadsheet for falling truly in love or committing to a revolution.
Right. Which raises a big question for us today, doesn't it? In a world that's obsessed with optimizing everything, minimizing risk.
Calculating everything.
Yeah. From dating apps that promise the perfect match based on algorithms to investment strategies designed for maximum safety. What does it mean to actually embrace the risk, the vulnerability that comes with genuine connection or real commitment?
It's about going beyond that cold cost-benefit analysis, isn't it? Whether it's in a relationship or in a political struggle, Žižek sees this kind of leap, this act, as a break from the usual way of doing things, the established order. It's a moment where something genuinely new, something unpredictable can actually happen.
And he argues that choosing to care that deeply about something or someone, it fundamentally changes you. It's not just something you do.
Exactly. It reshapes your whole world, your priorities, your desires, who you even think you are.
How so?
Well, think about it. That kind of commitment can completely shatter your old, comfortable routines. It forces you to reevaluate what matters, to take risks you wouldn't have dreamed of before, to adapt to things you couldn't possibly have predicted.
You need to let go of control.
You have to let go of the illusion of control and allow yourself to be changed, maybe even fundamentally altered by that allegiance, whether it's to a person or a cause demanding justice or a principle you hold dear. It's not always easy. It's certainly not neat. But for Žižek, that's where life gets real. It avoids that kind of sterile, pre-programmed existence.
Have you ever felt that kind of disorienting shift when you really committed, maybe in a relationship where you just dove in without a safety net?
Or maybe throwing yourself into a cause, a movement, and realizing, okay, there's no going back to how things were before.
That's the feeling he's pointing to, that moment where the rational calculations just dissolve and the fear is still there, but it's overridden by this deeper, passionate commitment that changes everything.
So the insight for us, the life skill maybe, is don't just try to optimize your life for safety and comfort. Don't just chase stability above all else.
Instead,
invest yourself, your energy, your being, in the causes and the relationships that genuinely matter to you, even if they feel risky, even if they involve vulnerability and uncertainty. Choose meaning over just equilibrium. Choose transformation over just transaction.
that's where the real living happens.
That's what he suggests. That's where authentic selfhood is forged, not in playing it safe, but in that radical act of giving yourself over to something beyond your own immediate comfort or calculation.
So it means prioritizing that kind of meaningful engagement, even if it's messy, over a perfectly curated, risk-free life.
Exactly. Finding what you're willing to take that chance on. For the sake of real experience, real connection, real impact. It's the opposite of hedging your bets. It's going all in.
And looking bigger picture.
It really challenges how we tend to treat relationships and even activism today, doesn't it? Reducing them to transactions, things we invest in for a return, affiliations we can easily drop if they get too demanding.
Yeah, the commodification of everything.
Right, and Žižek reminds us that the most vital parts of being human, deep love, courageous political action, true belief, these things defy that logic. They demand something irrational, something passionate, something that involves a leap. That's where we break free, even for a moment, from the ideological cages we build around ourselves.
Okay, finally, let's talk about something that makes Žižek, well, his style. The way he mixes incredibly dense philosophy with, like, really crude jokes or obscure movie references or these awkward personal stories.
Yeah, it's definitely unique and maybe surprisingly approachable sometimes, despite the reputation.
Right, and he reminds us that thinking seriously doesn't have to mean being dull or totally inaccessible.
Absolutely. And what's key here is that for Žižek, the humor isn't just, window dressing. It's not just to make it entertaining.
It's part of the philosophy itself.
It's a deliberate philosophical tool, a powerful one. It's part of his actual method for challenging beliefs, for shaking up what seems solid and obvious. Humor is like his secret weapon.
How does it work? How does humor challenge ideology?
Well, he shows how it can disarm those cliches, those things repeated. So often they sound like absolute truth. When something is presented as sacred, unquestionable, a well-placed joke or a really absurd analogy that comes out of nowhere can suddenly expose how ridiculous it is, or reveal its hidden contradictions, or just show how flimsy its foundations really are.
It breaks the spell.
It breaks the spell of seriousness, yeah. That aura of don't question this that often protects powerful ideas. By making us laugh at something, he forces us to think about it differently.
And it bypasses our usual defenses, maybe.
Exactly. If someone just confronts you directly, argumentatively, your guard goes up. But humor can sneak past that. It creates this moment of shared laughter. And in that moment, an insight can land. The absurdity of an ideology can suddenly become crystal clear. It's like intellectual jujitsu.
Think about it. How often does a really funny observation just make a complex idea suddenly click?
Or a piece of satire, a cartoon, a comedy sketch, reveals a truth about power or hypocrisy way more effectively than a dry analysis ever could.
Humor cuts through, doesn't it?
It really does. So the practical skill we can learn from Žižek here is approach the heavy stuff, the complex ideas, even the really troubling issues, with a mix of seriousness and playfulness.
Okay.
It makes critical thinking more engaging, not just for you, but for people you talk to about these things. It opens up conversations where maybe just being deadly serious would shut them down.
It's about intellectual agility, being rigorous, but also relatable, open.
Precisely. Rigorous and playful. That balance is incredibly valuable today. Navigating all the information, all the polarization, it allows for more productive, more nuanced, and frankly, just more human conversations about difficult things.
And looking at the bigger picture again.
Žižek shows us that thinking deeply, engaging intellectually, doesn't have to be this stiff academic thing locked away somewhere.
Yeah.
It can be lively, surprising, funny even. And that allows challenging ideas to actually reach more people, to get into the public conversation in a deeper way. It empowers people to engage with philosophy, not as some dead doctrine, but as a loving, breathing, sometimes hilarious way to see the world.
Yeah.
And maybe even to change it. So if we had to boil down everything we've talked about today, all the ideology, the rebellion traps, the discomfort, the risky leaps, the jokes, if Žižek himself had to give one piece of advice,
Yeah. What would it be?
it might be something like this, and it's incredibly challenging. Don't just change your lifestyle to feel better within the system. Change the way you think so you can change the system itself.
Wow. Okay. That really ties it all together, doesn't it? All 5 points lead to that.
Pretty much.
It's saying, move beyond just the superficial adjustments. Don't just buy the slightly better coffee or do the mindfulness app to cope.
Right. Those things might make you feel a bit better inside the current setup.
But the real goal is a fundamental shift, a transformation in your actual intellectual framework, how you see things, how you understand your place in them. It's like a call to arms for your mind.
Exactly. It highlights that real lasting change isn't just about individual choices or personal coping. Those things often operate entirely within the rules of the game, sometimes even reinforcing those rules. Genuine, systemic change needs that deeper work, interrogating the ideas, the assumptions that govern our reality, the common sense that holds everything in place. Only by really changing that internal landscape, shifting our ideological coordinates.
Can we actually start to affect the external world in a truly meaningful way? Reshape it?
That's the challenge he lays down. #outro.
Well, that was quite a journey. We went from questioning the obvious to seeing traps in rebellion, embracing discomfort, making risky leaps, and even finding power in humor, all through the unique lens of Slavoj Žižek.
And hopefully a surprisingly practical lens, too.
Yeah, that was the goal of this deep dive, right? To give you a shortcut to being really informed and to show that knowledge isn't just about collecting facts.
It's about getting a framework, a toolkit for seeing the world with more clarity, more depth, and definitely a critical perspective.
So ultimately, understanding Žižek seems to be about realizing that the real power isn't just in adapting to the system or making yourself comfortable inside it.
Right.
It's in fundamentally changing how you perceive the system, how you question its foundations, and therefore how you interact with it on a much deeper level.
Which leaves us with a final question, maybe for you listening right now. Given all this, what obvious truth, what bit of common sense that you've always just accepted, are you going to start questioning today? Just one thing. And how might that small internal shift start to change your view of reality? And maybe even open up new ways to act, new ways to engage more authentically.
Something to think about. Thanks for deep diving with us today. We really hope this exploration helps you see the world and your place in it with fresh, critical, and maybe even slightly amused eyes.